It was the kind of day you could almost forget. The kind of day that, years later, you'd look back on and wonder how you survived. Zuri Taylor had just turned 13, the age when things start to feel like they're supposed to be shaping up. But for Zuri, there was nothing typical about her life. She lived in a small apartment with her mom, who worked long hours at a hospital, the kind of work that made you feel invisible but necessary. And Zuri, well, she had learned that blending in was the only way to survive in a school where she was one of the few black students in a sea of privileged white faces. But that day would change everything. Zuri wasn't even supposed to be part of the winter showcase at Westlake Preparatory, a fancy school for kids whose parents had more money than they knew what to do with. But somehow, her name ended up on that list, and it wasn't her doing. It was Madison Hartley, the girl with perfect hair, perfect grades, and perfect everything, who made sure that Zuri would be humiliated in front of the whole school. Madison thought it would be funny make the poor black girl sing and watch her fail. A joke to put her in her place. But Madison didn't count on Zuri's voice. Now, Zuri wasn't the kind of person to draw attention to herself. Every day she woke up at 5:30, 2 hours before her alarm, to get ready for school, laying out her uniform like she was preparing for battle. She checked her shoes, her skirt, her blouse, making sure there were no signs of imperfection. Her mom was already gone, working double shifts, one at the hospital, another at a law firm. They lived in a quiet apartment, just big enough for the two of them. Zuri knew that getting a scholarship to Westlake was a blessing, but it also meant fighting harder for everything fitting in, passing classes, surviving the social war zone that was high school. And she did it, with a quiet resilience, even though Westlake's halls felt like a constant reminder that she wasn't quite like everyone else. At least, not in their eyes. But she had a secreted gift she shared only with herself. Singing. It was her escape, her way of coping with everything. Every morning, as she got ready for school, she'd belt out notes in the bathroom, a quiet tribute to her late grandmother, Eloise. Grandma Eloise had been a jazz singer back in the day, back when racism was as obvious as it was brutal. She'd toured Chicago's clubs before the world shut her out. Her music, her passion, all of it put away when she had to choose between family and fame. Zuri never got to hear her sing live, but she inherited her grandmother's voice. It was like an unspoken bond, a thread connecting Zuri to something larger than herself, something she couldn't explain. And that's where Madison made her mistake. She thought Zuri was just the charity case, just another scholarship kid trying to fit into a world that didn't want her. She thought she could use Zuri, mock her, show off her own classical talents, and destroy the girl's dignity in front of everyone. But Zuri had been fighting for this moment her whole life. One day at lunch, Madison approached Zuri, her smile oozing fake sweetness. She slid into the seat across from Zuri and her only friend, Casey, with her purple hair and a middle finger up to the whole school, who'd been Zuri's ally since the first day they met. "I overheard Miss Caldwell," Madison said, leaning in with that false intimacy. "She wants more diversity in the showcase this year. You know, not just the usual classical stuff. Maybe you could perform, represent your culture." Zuri's stomach twisted. It wasn't an offer. It was a setup. "I don't perform," Zuri said, her voice flat. Madison's smile didn't waver. "But everyone should share their heritage," she insisted. "You could do something rhythmic, like a jazz piece." Zuri kept her gaze level, but inside, her heart was racing. It wasn't just about the performance, it was about being pushed into a box she didn't belong in. A stereotype. "I don't perform," Zuri repeated, her voice firmer this time. But Madison was already levying, already moving on, like she knew Zuri had been silenced before she even had a chance. That afternoon, Zuri did what she did best. She disappeared. She sat in the back of Mr. Barrett's class, her eyes glued to the book in front of her, trying to ignore the whispers that followed her wherever she went. When the announcement for the winter showcase came, Zuri didn't think twice. She didn't even look at the list. It wasn't until Casey came running down the hall, her face flushed with a mixture of confusion and excitement, that Zuri realized something was wrong. Your name. It's on the list, Casey said breathlessly. Zuri froze, staring at the sheet, her name printed in black ink. Saw vocal solo, African American spiritual. Saw. What? She whispered. I didn't sign up. Madison had forged her signature. Zuri's stomach dropped. She was trapped. When Zuri went to Miss Caldwell to explain, the music teacher barely looked up. The deadline's already passed, Miss Caldwell said. Your name's on the list. It's too late to change anything now. Someone put my name down without my permission, Zuri protested, her voice rising with frustration. Miss Caldwell didn't blink. You're telling me another student forged your signature? Zuri didn't back down. Yes, she said, and I don't want to perform. The teacher's cold gaze swept over her. It reflects poorly on your character if you back out now, Zuri. Zuri's heart pounded. They were setting her up. They wanted to make her fail. They wanted her to be the joke. And the worst part? They knew they could control her, put her on stage in front of everyone, and let her crash and burn. But Zuri wasn't going to let that happen. When she went home that night, she didn't tell her mom. She couldn't. She couldn't let her mom see her fail, not after everything she'd done to get her here. Zuri's mom, Desiree, was always tired, always busy. But she was also proud of the life they were building, even if it wasn't perfect. Zuri locked herself in her room and took out the vinyl records her grandmother had left her. She put one on the turntable, Saw, Take the A Train. Saw, the same song her grandmother used to sing in. She let the music fill the room. Your voice is your power, her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. They fear what they can't control. Don't let them silence you. The next day at school, Zuri found her name still on the list. Miss Caldwell handed her a sheet of music, Saw, Avy Maria Saw, a soprano piece that only a trained opera singer could perform. It was a setup. They wanted her to fail. But Zuri wasn't going to play their game. She wasn't going to let them put her in a box. And so, she went to Mr. Raymond, the janitor who had taught at Juilliard before circumstances forced him out of the academic world. He saw Zuri's potential immediately. You've got a voice there, girl, he told her, smiling gently. But it's not for that piece. Let's do something that'll blow them away. With his help, Zuri started working on a new arrangement, a jazzed-up version of Saw Swing Low, Sweet Chariot Saw, one that would honor her heritage and show them all just how wrong they were. But things weren't going to be easy. Madison's group kept up the harassment. They doctored a recording of Zuri singing, making her sound terrible, and spread it through the school. Zuri heard the whispers in the hallways, the snide comments, the mocking laughs. But this time, she didn't shrink. She didn't hide. She stood tall. The night of the performance arrived, and everything was stacked against her. Her microphone was placed at the far edge of the stage, almost hidden by the piano. Her backing track was messed up. They were doing everything they could to make her fail. But Zuri didn't care anymore. She had a plan. When she took the stage, she didn't sing the song they expected. She didn't sing the stereotypical, safe choice. She sang her truth. She sang Saw Swing Low, Sweet Chariot Saw, but with a jazz twist, a little bit of her grandmother's spirit in every note. She sang for her people, for her grandmother, for herself. And just when they thought they had her cornered, Zuri did something even bolder. She shifted into her grandmother's original composition, a song she had never recorded, called Saw, simply unsilent Saw. The message was clear, and it hit like a punch in the gut. Saw, you fear my voice because it carries truth your walls can't contain. Saw. The auditorium went quiet. The tension was thick in the air. But Zuri kept going. She let her voice fill every corner of the room, every empty space that had tried to swallow her whole. And by the time she finished, the entire room was on its feet. Applause broke out, echoing through the walls. Zuri's performance wasn't just a VY Tory for her, it was a message to everyone who had tried to silence her. She didn't just belong at Westlake. She belonged in the world. Her voice was her power, and she was never going to let them take that from her again. As Zuri took her final bow, her eyes searched the audience until she found her mom, Desiree, standing at the back, tears in her eyes. That was when Zuri knew she had won, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. Now, what about you? What would you do if you were in Zuri's shoes? Would you speak your truth, even when the world is telling you to stay quiet? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you think everyone deserves a chance to be heard, and subscribe to join this journey of speaking our truth, no matter what the world tries to do to shut us down. Let's stand together and refuse to be silenced.